History, a premier and paramount priority for progress of a people, arguably the single most important cultural property. It is the great unifier of all societies, from classical to contemporary. It is the shining beacon that restores vision to the blind. It is imperative that we create a unified effort to learn from it, that we may emulate its successes and prevent repeating its mistakes. For without history, we are without purpose. We are without identity. Welcome to the gray area, where we examine history in hindsight. January 28th, 1547, England's King Henry VIII died, and he was succeeded by a 9-year. 1871, France surrendered in the Franco-Prussian War. 1878, the first telephone switchboard was installed in New Haven, Connecticut. 1909, the United States ended direct control over Cuba, mostly because it had no choice. 1915, the Coast Guard was created by an act of Congress to fight contraband trade and aid distressed vessels at sea. 1935, Iceland became the first country to legalize abortion. 1938, Crystal Beard Fawcett was elected to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, the first black woman to serve as a representative. 1945, during World War II, Allied supplies began reaching China over the newly reopened Burma Road. 1958, construction began on the first privately owned thorium-uranium nuclear reactor. 1965, General Motors reported the biggest profit of any U.S. company in history. 1970, Arthur Ashe, who was the first black man to win Wimbledon, is denied entry to compete on the U.S. team for the South African Open Championships due to Ashe's sentiments on South Africa's racial policy in protest to South African apartheid. 1981, William J. Casey becomes the 13th director of the CIA. 1986, U.S. Space Shuttle Challenger exploded just after takeoff. All 7 of its crew members were killed. 1994, in Los Angeles, Superior Court Judge Stanley Weisberg declared a mistrial in the case of Lyle Menendez in the murder of his parents. Lyle and his brother Eric were both retried and found guilty. They were sentenced to life in prison without any possibility of parole. 1998, in Manila, Philippines, gunmen held at least 400 children and teachers for several hours at an elementary school. 1999, Ford Motor Company announced the purchase of Sweden's Volvo AB for $6.45 billion. 2002, Toys R Us Incorporated announced that it would be closing 27 Toys R Us stores and 37 Kids R Us stores in order to cut costs and boost operating profits. However, later it would seem that was not enough, as they would eventually completely close all stores. 2019, U.S. Justice Department charges Chinese firm Huawei with bank and wire fraud, when really it was just a technique to keep Huawei products out of American markets. But rewinding all the way back to 1787, the Free Africa Society, organizers in Philadelphia, was an organization that held religious services and provided, quote, mutual aid for free Africans and their descendants. Mutual aid is a fancy legal term That means group economics. The society was founded by Richard Allen and Absalom Jones. It was the first black religious institution in the city of Philadelphia and led to the establishment of the first independent black churches of the United States. The founding members, all free black men, including Samuel Baston, Joseph Johnson, Cato Freedman, Caesar Cranchell, James Potter, and William White. Notable members also would include African American abolitionists such as Cyrus Bastille, James Forten, and William Gray. The organization was developed as a part of a rise in civic organizing following the American War of Independence in the 1776 to 1783 Revolutionary War. It was the first black mutual aid society in Philadelphia. The city was growing as a center for free blacks who were attracted to its jobs and other opportunities. In 1790, or rather leading up to 1790, the city had over 2,000 free black residents, a number that continued to increase. In the first 2 decades after the war, inspired by revolutionary ideals, northern states would largely abolish slavery, though not completely. Numerous freed men migrated to Philadelphia from rural areas of Pennsylvania and the South. It was a growing center of free black society. In addition, their numbers were increased by free people of color who were either refugees of the Haitian Revolution in Saint-Domingue, as well as fugitive slaves escaping the South. To encourage and promote responsibility and create a common aid fund, the Free Africa Society asked members to pay dues of 1 shilling per month. If they failed to pay dues for 3 months, they were cut off from the society, no longer able to share in its benefit. The dues collected were the fund for the community services project that the Free African Society had organized. Among these were a food program to help support the community's poor, widowed, and newly arrived, as well as a reading assistance program. You see, history, much like time, waits for no man. It is ultimately up to us to decide whether we choose to make it or be the reason we repeat it. However, no matter what side of it that you stand on, you can only learn from it by looking at history in hindsight.